She ran barefoot, the dust of her father's land rising behind her like smoke from a fire. Every step carried the weight of a life she could no longer endure. Chains of silence, of injustice, of a world that never let her breathe free. But, in the vast emptiness of the prairie where the horizon swallowed secrets whole, someone saw her pain. A cowboy, hardened by the saddle yet softened by a conscience, rode toward the broken figure in the dust. Little did she know this ride would change her story forever, transforming her escape into something far greater than survival. The farm was no sanctuary, it was a prison. Her father's land stretched wide and proud, but it was built on sweat. That wasn't his own. Generations of workers labored under the sun, their stories silenced, their dignity stripped. She had grown up in the shadow of cruelty, watching how power carved lines between who could stand tall and who was forced to bow. For years, she tried to stay unseen, hoping her silence would protect her. But silence was its own cage. She heard the whispers of those who toiled, the cries carried by the wind, and the bitter truth burned within her chest. Her father's name commanded respect in town, yet in the fields it was muttered with resentment and fear. She couldn't bear it anymore. On that day, with the sun climbing high and the heat pressing down, she chose freedom over fear. She left everything, her shoes, her safety, her ties to a family name that reeked of injustice. She didn't look back, because looking back meant surrender. The prairie stretched endlessly ahead, but she didn't know where her path would lead. All she knew was this: every breath outside that farm was a step toward reclaiming her soul. Somewhere out there, away from her father's grip, a different story waited to be written. The land was merciless. Dry grass cut her feet, stones tore her skin, and the sun punished her without pity. Yet compared to the weight she had left behind, the pain felt almost sweet. She thought of the workers back at the ranch, men and women whose labor fed others but starved their own families. Their lives had been bought cheap, paid for with broken backs and broken spirits. She carried their cries with her. Each step was not only her escape, but theirs too. She would no longer live as a silent witness. Running was her rebellion, but freedom was fragile. Out on the open plains, her body weakened. Hunger gnawed, thirst burned, and fear crept in. What if her father's men found her? What if she collapsed before she reached safety? And then in the distance she heard hooves. At first panic overtook her. She thought they had come for her. She dropped to her knees, clutching the dirt, ready for punishment. But it wasn't her father's men. It was a lone cowboy. He wasn't from her world of wealth and cruelty. His skin was darkened by sun and struggle, his eyes carrying the weight of battles fought both seen and unseen. He knew what it meant to live beneath the heel of power. Life had branded him with scars not just on the flesh, but in the spirit. When he saw her, broken and barefoot, he recognized something deeper than exhaustion. He saw a soul desperate for truth, a spirit running from chains too heavy to carry. He could have ridden past, spared himself the burden, but he didn't. He dismounted, walked toward her, and extended his hand. For the first time, she didn't feel like property. She felt like a person. And though he didn't speak, his gesture said everything. You are not alone anymore. That moment shifted everything. She had run from pain, but now she had run into purpose. The cowboy helped her too, her feet steadying her trembling body. His presence was firm yet gentle, an anchor in a storm that had raged for too long. As he led her toward his horse, she realized the risk he was taking. Helping her meant defying powerful men who didn't forgive rebellion. His choice placed him in danger too. But he didn't hesitate. The dust swirled around them as they rode, the land stretching endlessly, each mile taking them farther from her father's grasp. She clung not to fear, but to hope. For the first time in her life, behind them, the past howled like a vengeful wind, but ahead lay something stronger than fear, the possibility of freedom, dignity, and truth. The cowboy wasn't rescuing her. He was reminding her of what she already carried within, the courage to stand, the strength to fight, the right to live free. And in that moment, as the sun sank low and painted the sky with fire, she knew one thing. She would never return to the silence of her father's land. The farm they left behind still stood, but its power had cracked. Because one act of defiance had planted a seed. Her running wasn't just about escape, it was about breaking a cycle. She had seen injustice, and she chose to no longer be complicit. With the cowboy's help, she found refuge among others who knew the weight of oppression. They offered not just shelter, but solidarity. Together they shared stories of pain, resistance, and resilience. She learned that healing wasn't instant. It was carved slowly through community, courage, and truth. And though her father's land remained, it no longer defined her. She wasn't the girl who ran barefoot in fear. She was the woman who chose freedom, who carried the voices of the silenced, and who vowed to never let them be forgotten. The cowboy didn't chain her to gratitude. He simply walked beside her, knowing that in lifting another, he too reclaimed a piece of his own dignity. Her story was not an ending but a beginning, a reminder that sometimes running isn't cowardice, it's the first step toward justice. So ask yourself, when faced with the weight of silence, would you stay bound by fear, or would you find the courage to run?